Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo, and this is $3 Theater. Hopefully, you're home for enthusiastic movie news, because that, quite frankly, is a lot of what I want to do on this channel. I want to get excited for these kind of things. I want to talk to you guys about why I get excited for these sorts of things. And hopefully, it becomes just a wee bit infectious, so that when you go to the cinema, when you sit down in the chair, you get your popcorn, your soda, or whatever you snuck in, you thieving bastards, you have fun. That's what I want. I want you guys to have fun. But that being said, we're going to go into some spoiler territory. Now, this is, I normally hate spoilers, fully admit I hate spoilers, but this is something I wanted to cover because I saw a video today from a guy by the name of Acid Glow, who apparently covers Alien Covenant material quite a bit, and he released a video about, kind of like higher beings above the engineers having manufactured the Xenomorphs, right? And then went off on another video about the Anunnaki, which I do believe come from the Bible. Also, they play in heavily with Planet Nibiru, that mythos. If you know anything about Planet X, it's a very fascinating read. I mean, it's complete bollocks and it's horseshit, but it's still fascinating and lets the mind kind of go and have a bit of fun in that regard. But the videos that Acid Glow put out there kind of struck me as odd, because he said these things but yet provided absolutely no sources. And so lo and behold, earlier today at South by Southwest, there was a screening for about 20 minutes of Alien Covenant footage, and they released a huge major spoiler that pretty much kind of throws a wrench in everything Acid Glow is saying. Now, I'm not making this to call him out. I just like to have the record set straight, because I look at channels like that and the kind of stuff they put out there, and when they don't produce their sources and they don't talk about where they get this information, I find it to be just a tad disingenuous, which is one of the reasons why I show you guys the article that I'm reading, and I read from that article, and I show you the work, so that way you know where I'm getting my sources from, and that way we can have in my opinion, a more honest conversation. But that being said, Ridley Scott drops major Alien Covenant spoiler with this special screening at South by Southwest. So if you haven't already figured, there's going to be a big ass spoiler in this particular video, and they make sure to let you know by saying, warning, major possible spoilers for Alien Covenant out of South by Southwest below, so please don't read unless you're very curious or feel that you already know what's spoiled and are superior in every way. Which, let's face it, I mean, if you watched Prometheus, you pretty much get what the spoiler is, right? It's basically laid out in Prometheus. It's just really heavily reiterated here. So if you remember, in Prometheus, you had David, Michael Fassbender's android character, who was beheaded at the end of the movie. Well, apparently he is in Alien Covenant, because we've seen Michael Fassbender as Walter, right, the other android that's coming in on that particular crew. But we know, because I talked about this in a previous video, that David is still around. We just didn't know to what capacity. Now that has been shown. It says here, in the final preview scene, Michael Fassbender's android David, he's definitely the same character from Prometheus in this scene, as he's called David by name, walks Billy Crudup's character through his personal workshop of biological terrors. He shows off different mutations of the creatures, explaining that he's been trying to understand the aliens that were discovered in Prometheus, going as far as to genetically engineer new versions, a process that's been waiting for one final puzzle piece to complete. That's when David takes him into a small chamber filled with 4 eggs that look identical to the one seen in the original Alien. The final puzzle piece, David says, is Mother, awaiting host, and that Crudup's character is lined up for the honor. The dots are easy to connect. The alien, as audiences saw it in 1979, wasn't the result of evolution or natural selection. Instead, it was the result of an android intentionally breeding the most dangerous, lethal creature possible. Now, that is one hell of a revelation, but again, based on David's actions in Prometheus, we can see that this would technically be the natural process of evolution for his his functioning. In Prometheus, he was trying to learn more about the engineers. He infected the one guy whose name I can't remember right now. He did all of those things. In my opinion, he was doing that because of David, of Wayland, who was there, trying to learn more about how to save him, I think. And that is why he was doing what he was doing. And in the meantime, though, over the course of all the years that have passed between Prometheus and Alien Covenant, he landed on the planet, which I do not know if it's LV-426. We don't know that yet. I don't think that it is. But clearly there's a connection with this planet. And he's been then breeding the Xenomorphs, obviously needing the final piece of that puzzle being the human element, right? The human host, mother, in order to be able to facilitate the facehugger and to bring out the Xenomorph, which is similar to what they did in Alien Resurrection, which is when they cloned Ripley's body in order to extract the alien queen for basically, once again, the similar purposes. And that's kind of been everything that the Alien franchise has kind of revolved around, which has always been the idea of man creating this type of virus, of disease, of killer, of whatever you want to call it. And of course, corporations attempting to profit off of it, as we saw in Aliens. And so there's a lot there that is definitely going to be kind of leading the way in terms of moving the story along, that we see that, it's more horrific than we thought. It's not the engineers crafted the Xenomorphs. It's kind of a take on mankind's pushing for technology and artificial intelligence, and how artificial intelligence that is designed to service us, to protect us, to look after us, to accompany us, is then developing these genetic biological horrors as a way to kill us. It very much kind of, again, takes that next evolutionary step where what we create eventually comes back to try to be our own downfall. And if done well, and based on just that little tidbit of information from that one scene, it looks pretty cool. The results coming off of this have been pretty tight. People have very much liked what they saw. It leads me to believe that Ridley Scott is very much trying to once again bring back the man versus monster mentality that he had in the original film, but he's also trying to extrapolate on that a little bit more. So it's going to be man versus, nature, man versus monster, man versus self, man versus God. But God is not God in the way that's like Acid, whatever his name was trying to talk about that. The higher being wasn't necessarily the Anunnaki or anything involving religion. And people have been trying to fucking shove religion down aliens' throats since Prometheus, because of the imagery of the Xenomorph kind of crucified to the wall. And I've heard that for a while. And the engineers being godlike creatures. Fuck that. We're not talking about this from a religious perspective. We're talking about this from, once again, technology and evolution of such, and how it then comes to a head with our own society and how it can destroy us. If anything, it's an allegory for expansion on technology and how it could be the downfall of mankind, the creation of biological weapons and the use of them against our enemies, and how it can get out of hand. Again, these are elements at play that I do believe this is what Ridley Scott's going for, which very much makes me happy, because I didn't want it to go the fucking religious route. I didn't want it to go like, oh, there is one true God. Oh. And if you look at the idea of Prometheus, the story in Greek mythology of this son of Zeus essentially becoming the protector of mankind, you can almost look to see what it was kind of boiling down to, and that may feel like a bit of an over the top assessment to it. That the idea there is that the engineers, I think, were meant to be Prometheus in terms of like the protector of or creator of. But if you're talking about the kind of the core concept of who Prometheus was in Greek mythology, then he was a protector. Right? Protector. So follow that, I guess, to the, to the zenith of the argument of Wayland Yutani using these creatures as maybe a protector, maybe a deterrent. I am probably over reading way too much into this, and I will fully admit that, but it is some food for thought. We don't know anything yet. We haven't seen the movie, but based upon everything that we've seen thus far, we can pretty much ascertain that it's not a religious thing. It is very much going to be about man versus man, and man maybe becoming God, or in this case, artificial intelligence becoming God, and how it could lead to our own demise. And that, again, is something that I find to be very fascinating. And I hope it's presented in a way that is thoughtful and doesn't really beat you over the head with it, because I'm a little bit worried about that. But ultimately, I have very, very high faith in this film. I can't wait to see it in May. It's just like 2 months away. It's going to be fantastic. But I want to know your thoughts. Do you think that this is going to be what they're talking about? Do you think it is going to have a higher power? Do you think that it is going to bring in religion? What are your thoughts? These are things I want to know. My name is Matt Jarbo. This has been 3 Buck Theater. Be sure to leave your comments below, and I look forward to reading them. Subscribe if you're new. Thumbs up the video if you haven't already, and check back for more content pretty frequently. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day. Peace out.